Outsourcing 2.0, a video podcast series powered by SupportNinja, where we talk about customer experience, outsourcing, and everything in there and in between. I'm joined today, once again, by the always amazing CEO of SupportNinja, Craig Chrysler. Craig, it's a pleasure to have you today.
Always a pleasure to see you, Jack. And I will say again, we're probably the best dressed individuals at SupportNinja, if I do say so myself.
No arguments there, man. I definitely feel that we bring a level of style that is unparalleled at SupportNinja. So, Craig, CX departments across the board are facing pressure to deliver excellent service quickly and efficiently. And AI has been the one that's sort of swooped in to be that solution. But customers and companies are both concerned on whether or not AI will have a negative impact on their business. AI on its own can be, impersonal, and humans, on the other hand, can have their own inaccuracies or can ultimately be slower. I think at the end of the day, it's all about finding the balance between humans and AI. So today, Craig, we've got 4 questions as it relates to AI and humans working together. And first, we're just going to look at it from one side and then the other. That brings us to our first question, which is, what are the challenges of human-only customer support teams?
So it's interesting that you even said like customer support teams, because that's what a lot of what's happening here. When you think about customer support or traditional customer support, a lot of it is human only, right? Like, and a lot of times when we talk about customer experience, there's a lot of requirements of human touch in terms of building a meaningful relationship with the end user, so that way you can actually solve their problems. They're mostly coming to you with problems, not necessarily coming to you with good news. Usually it's bad news when they're coming to you, right? But the challenges of it being only humans is the human side of it. To be honest, it's the aspects that make us all kind of human. There's time limitations, meaning that, it's hard for us to respond to things quickly all the time. And especially as you're going through it and using it, unless you're leveraging technology, it's really hard to always be exactly correct. And so there's also an inconsistency component to it. I would love to say, I love you to my wife the same way every single time, but I don't. And it changes, right? And we're limited just as humans. Like there's a capacity that we can do, and as we're going through it, and what we see even at SupportNinja is that especially if agents are working every day providing customer support and doing this kind of work, there's a repetition that occurs, and in repetition there's failure rates at times, right? You're doing the same thing, the same response over and over again, so that can be problematic. In that too, what's interesting for me when I look at when you do just humans, there's also kind of a diversity of voice within humans, meaning that, it's hard for you to kind of nail down the exact verbiage that everybody's supposed to say to this person, because everyone's nuanced in their approach and how they talk about it. So there are some limitations to using only humans, because it's just the aspect of us being human in many, many ways.
Absolutely. I mean, we can only go so far. That's why we say we're only human, right? Let's flip the script, though, and take a look at the other side of things, because there are some companies that feel as though they can go all in on the other side of things with AI, right? Completely replacing support teams with AI-only support teams. I want to know, what are the challenges of AI-only support teams?
This is where you realize the inhumanity that is AI. Like there's an aspect of, even though it was built by and for people, it definitely lacks, even though it can handle the processing speeds better and it can probably retain information on some levels better than a human could, it lacks the empathy stuff. It lacks the ability to personalize. Let's say you're talking to somebody who's in their 50s about a problem with their computer versus someone who's in their 20s. And when you're on a voice call or a chat, you may not know their age, but a good agent will be able to differentiate, oh, this is the level of technical skill that I'm dealing with somebody in their 20s and someone who's in their 50s. Those kinds of things make it really hard for AI to kind of differentiate and personalize and kind of work through that stuff. We also know that AI has quality issues, right? It's a trainable model, meaning that it evolves and gets better over time. And so it often falls short. And there's all kinds of examples of that where, it gives the wrong information, or it says something that's incorrect, or potentially, especially if it's leveraging a large language model like Gen AI, saying something downright, discriminatory. It has discrimination in it or something like that. And further, I think one of the things that's hard with an AI only approach is that it doesn't align always with what you're trying to achieve as a strategy as an organization, because it's using systems and processes in the way in which it's approaching it from a very broad view instead of a very specific view. And the more specific it gets, the more prone to errors it is. It's really frustrating for the end user as they're doing it. You always use that thing about how do you get through the phone bot, right? There used to be like a website. It's like, how do you get through the phone bot? It gives you all the ways in which you press certain numbers and it will get you through the phone bot. Now there's websites popping up. It's like, how do you get to a human? And it's because people want answers to questions, and the phone trees and the ways in which it's doing the logic on a bot only basically leaves people wanting more interaction and more personalization to solve their issue personally, which makes AI only a little bit problematic.
It's a little ironic, right? It seemed like it was initially the better step forward to have that AI only approach, but now, like you say, we're almost trying to speed run our way to a human, right? So that we can actually get what we really want. I am curious, though, Craig, how does AI improve customer experience overall on a broad scale?
I always say that the main thing for me about AI is that AI actually makes us more human. It allows us to amplify and excel in the things like creativity and being able to be responsive and pick up cues from the end users and understand the ways in which we can actually help them and be part of solving their problem. It actually helps us do that stuff more, while the menial tasks, the stuff that it requires us to look up things and try to find information and stuff like that, AI allows that to be fed to us in a way, in a customer experience sense, that an agent can literally work on: how do I make this customer feel better? And how do I solve their problem versus how do I find this thing or this particular thing or whatnot? And it literally can feed information and allow us to, really elevate the empathy that we have with customers as they're coming to us. And I think what we see at Support Ninja, that's a lot of what we focus on, with the alignment between what do our clients need from brand voice in order to make sure we resolve their clients' questions, and putting AI tools to resolve those questions in place that support the brand voice, that ultimately a human in the loop that we believe in really amplifies what they're doing. And also, too, as a side note to all this, it actually elevates the work that the ninjas, or the folks that are doing the CX work, it elevates the work that they're doing. So for example, they may come to us with one problem, but now because we're able to resolve it with the support of AI, with some knowledge that's being fed to agents, now these agents can now work on stuff. We're asking them questions like, is there other issues you're having? And then how and what ways can we support you on those that are higher order? They're maybe tier 2 or tier 3. So I think AI actually does a lot to improve customer experience, but it's not in the traditional way of thinking that a bot in the front end is just going to solve all your problems. It's more of saying there's a human involved that will actually be supported by AI that will actually do it. I say it's the shift from being a customer support agent to a customer experience agent. So you're elevating the experience, not the support.
I like that idea of not really doing it as a support agent, but rather the experience. I mean, basically frees up their time to get into the more complex issues. Now, Craig, you kind of touched on it a little bit in that last answer, but the final question I do have for you is, in your eyes, what is the path forward for CX and AI?
Collectively, folks who are in this industry that are doing customer experience, about doing this type of work in the customer experience space, one of the things that we all need to kind of agree on: closed systems versus open systems. Most of us are going to work in closed systems. We need to be able to look at closed data sets. We need to be able to work with data that's specific to our client in an AI model. Specifically, when we're talking about Gen AI and its use. Because if you do open data sets, meaning that you're using the BARD AIs of the world and the, chat GPTs of the world, like if you're using those open sources, those are really difficult to get good, meaningful information to somebody in a CX space to be able to resolve client issues and be able to have, great customer experience and stuff like that. Whereas in a closed data set, we're actually dealing with the issues related to that problem, not the world's problem that's in an open data set. Also, too, if you use open data sets, there's security issues, there's also error prone, there's all kinds of stuff there. So that's one. I think the other part of it too, to always keep in mind, and this is what we firmly believe at Support Ninja, it's about humans in the loop. It's about the ways in which, as any tech tool, if you're utilizing a tech tool, you need to understand the ways in which humans interact with it, the way in which we would use it effectively to amplify work. And then also, too, what are you trying to accomplish with it? Almost all of the scenarios that we look at right now, it really does require a human in the loop. I was just reading an article about how walk out the door Amazon Go things. What people don't realize, it's actually really expensive to run those stores, where they thought it would be cost effective because there's a bunch of humans in the background looking at cameras and like watching them go in and out. And that idea that there's never going to be a human in the loop when it comes to AI, we're just not even there yet. So the idea that we need to make sure that the tool's being used and that there's a human in the loop to make sure that it's being used effectively is by far, I think, the big future of CX and AI.
So that actually gets me thinking, if listeners or viewers are curious on a little bit more on this topic, we actually covered it in last week's episode with Rio, our VP for Products and Innovation. We talked about what you want to look for when you're choosing an AI-enabled outsourcing partner, because a lot of times what they say versus what you get is completely different. So I do urge viewers to go check that one out, because it's a very interesting listen and watch. But Craig, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you bringing some insight into AI and humans working together. This has been Outsourcing 2.0, video podcast series powered by SupportNinja. Thanks for watching.